Oh, that's your girl, huh? Well, I just hit it. It's ASAP. Live with it. Yeah. Well, yesterday I started the Learning How to Live show. That was really good. I had a really good first episode. I'm gonna write a note on my phone now that I've just remembered it. Let me go into my notes. Something I want to write down. um, to discuss as a podcast topic is why do I keep lying trying to impress people? Um, yeah, so How to Live show went really well. Good first episode done. I've linked the RSS to it. Um, I went to work today. I'm just working from home, but I had one call today. Actually, I had two calls today. I mean, I'll classify them as passes, to be honest, but something I've picked up, and I'll write this down as well on my phone. I feel like, and I will definitely discuss it here. I feel like when I'm in social situations, I literally forget forget all the techniques, and my mind just goes blank, even in low pressure situations. Even in low pressure speaking. Presuming it's the flight or fight response. Doing that, it's but it is something I've definitely noticed. It's very hard to stay um there. You feel me? It's definitely a problem, and yeah, I guess I was definitely struggling, and I was trying to hop over certain words in my own way, but not using any of the crutches. But then it's like, as soon as the call's over, it's like, okay, I can return now. Like, I'm not super on edge to the point where I literally can't think of anything. You know, yeah, I think I can cure myself. I know I can cure myself. I mean, throughout all of these episodes, I don't know how many episodes I've done, not stuttered once. And I have full control over my speech and my thoughts. As soon as another person's in the room, that completely goes. So I feel like this is going to be a battle of not only doing the stutter stuff, but the social anxiety stuff is going to be huge for me. It is just going to be really, really huge. I really want to be able to speak like this in real life, but it will happen. It absolutely will. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off with this. So let me just change this. So let's say I start. Let's say if I just start in 5 minutes. Let's just say that. Give myself a little bit of time. Let me just get comfortable. This morning I was thinking about ASAP Rocky, and I was just thinking about that career that he fumbled, and I think about it quite often, to be honest. Just how that man was on top, and now his album got leaked in full. No one cares. And I saw somewhere that his album, initially got like 6,000 pre-orders or something, which is absolutely nothing. Um, yeah, I'm feeling really tired, really, really drained from work, but I'm trying to really push myself to do this. So let's do it. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 minutes. Here you go, PDF page 150, book page 137. Okay, so problem. After a while, my stutter planner decided to attack second syllables of some words, where I dropped the first letter or syllable. This didn't happen frequently because immediately after I used a crutch, I jammed the next word in to what I had just said, giving Satan stuttering no time to impose a stutter. But yes, to beat second syllables or words after the first feared letter, I needed more than crutch 1. When I did not use this crutch, or some later developed crutch, I generally stuttered, and this often began the negative stutter snowball moving against me. However, my trial and error methods kept me vac va- vacillating, what does that mean? Vacillating, wavering between different opinions or actions. Kept me vacillating from fluency to stuttering to fluency and back and forth for years. This negative penundum cycle was not necessary. People who stutters, depending on severity and work ethic, willingness to practice, can and should substantially stop their stuttering in 3 to 4 months, with very severe cases requiring much longer. 10 continuous months is the longest in my experience to date. Eventually, over and over again, each time I used this crutch, dropping the first syllable or letter, I avoided a stuttering embarrassment. I did not create another bad memory to overcome. I did the reverse. I began to build a large fluency memory bank of successful speaking. And as it improved steadily, my stuttering memory bank grew smaller and smaller and smaller. There were setbacks, of course, but in time, my successes began to outnumber my failures. Progress was being made. My sublime fluency memory bank was beginning to dominate my evil stuttering memory bank. Satan's stuttering fear was growing a tad inspid. I was on a speech rock and roll. Even when using the hated telephone, where I often stuttered my most obvious stutters, I was doing much, much better. During law school for several years, I worked in the US Senate. Horror of horrors, I operated a phone switchboard in the Republican cloakroom when I wasn't manning a door. Can you imagine the horror of a person who stutters operating a switchboard? I was panic-stricken. I had to do something, and fast. I could not allow myself to block and create long pauses. As senators, their staff and callers waited for me. So, crutches began my first line of defense. It was sink or swim. So, I jumped in with both feet, answering phone calls and paging senators. Here are my examples. I created many variations of these: morning, Senate, Republican, cloakroom, cloakroom, Senate, US, Senate's room, phone room, Senate switchboard, Senate. Sometimes I coughed or sneezed intentionally and laughed, as did the caller. It worked. Then, once I had announced where I was, sort of, I had to say something like, "May I help you?" or just "help you?" or "hold on, please," or "hold." Then I had to page a senator or buzz for a Senate page. Paging Senator Johnson, calling on one, or just Senator Johnson on one. In short, reader, I was in stutterer's hell. That was my job. Did I need a quick solution or what? Remember, I was married, had 2 kids, went to law school at night, and had a full-time job in the US Senate, and was broke. Panic. In an earlier edition, I talked about fast talking. In retrospect, I miswrote. I meant word linkage. I can link words when talking fast, average speed, and even very slowly. Speed is not the key. Word linkage is the key. Getting past the first feared letter or word was the goal, which I achieved by word linkage, crutch 10. As I learned to link words, I made it sound like a kid, which I was 22 to 25, slurring his speech, jamming words together, and dropping word endings. The more that I linked my words, crushed 10, the less time my mind had to plan a stutter. After a while, I realized that I didn't need to talk fast. I simply needed to connect my words and syllables, allowing no spaces, pauses, or even tiny hesitations. The positive fluency snowball was gaining momentum. It worked, and the more that it worked, the easier it became. My crutches actually expedited the spontaneity, spontaneity, spontaneity. My crutches actually expedited the spontaneity of my speech. Many people who stutter can't understand that until they prove it to themselves with me on Skype. My stuttering fear meter was in freefall. The better I became at employing my crutches, the less I stuttered in all situations, as I became less and less and less afraid of stuttering. I was helping all of this by giving myself 3 20-minute self-hypnosis treatments daily. I love to speak. I love to talk on the phone, etc., over and over, while visualizing and hearing myself speak fluently. And I had just begun to read out loud to myself in a closet at first. Let me write this down. 3 20-minute self-hypnosis treatments daily. I love to speak. I love to talk on the phone over and over while visualizing and hearing myself speak fluently. Let me write that down. That is good. Yo. And I had just begun to read aloud to myself in a closet at first. Visualizations plus repetition of my auto-suggestions were rewriting the negative stutter script that stuttering incidents had been burned into my brain. The clincher was that the crutches were eliminating new stutter memories, while saying unavoidable names was still my biggest single use of this crutch one, I found that dropping the first syllable helped immensely and immediately with routine conversations too. That is, when I was conversing about anything, and suddenly my mind injected fear of stuttering and triggered stuttering. A dropped letter or syllable here and there enabled me to continue speaking with no visible signs of stuttering. Presto, my speech was beginning to flow. I was fooling most everyone a good bit of the time. The speech cripple was beginning to speak. Often, even with using only this first crutch, many didn't even know that Lee stuttered. Victory. As noted elsewhere, I never stuttered much at home, and my family always insisted that I did not stutter, until my father heard me in the courtroom, after which he never mentioned the word stutter to me again. He died several years later. I was 28. Sadly, he did not live to see me beat it. For the first time since my first instance of stuttering, my stuttering stopped getting worse and began to get better. As I discovered and used them, my crutches became the best method in phase 1 of my self-cure, and they later became the best method in the post-cure phase as my best method of adopting relapses. I am so good at using crutches as no one can even tell when I'm using them or when I'm not. As long as I have my crutches, I know that no one can ever catch me or my people who stutter mates stuttering. I stumble now and then and repeat words like everyone else, but these are not fear driven, and I long ago stopped caring about normal human mistakes. Some people who stutter reject my crutches, and thus my book and me, at first blush and return to their breathing exercises, thinking and planning words, elongating their words, pressing their tongues unnaturally on the roof of their mouths, vibrating their Adam's apple, using voice playback devices or whatever, and they still stutter and or sound like robots. It's sad because my crutches work and sound natural. Just listen to SAA's people who stop stuttering in our videos, or listen to my Audible books as I read all of them. My self cure had begun in earnest. Having read the below carefully, I hope you will, of course, begin your self cure right now. If you can read aloud without stuttering, I hope that you are reading this book aloud right now. All of it. Assuming so, practice dropping a first few letters here and there. It's easy to master. I can now do it as spontaneously as I speak. Learning to learning to do such easy things automatically will not interface with your increasingly normal spontaneous speech. Dropping the first letter of feared words will lead to fluency. Make an aim of it. Have fun teaching yourself how to avoid uttering. How to avoid uttering. Turn your speech lemon into lemonade. Once you're used to doing this, you'll see how easy and effective it is. Don't think, I aren't. Just do it. If you were learning to hit a golf ball, would you expect to master it quickly? Worthwhile things take time, and didn't learn to stutter overnight either. Examples of opping first letters syllables. U can u it too, so us u it. Op the erst etter of erds in a entence. Sounds a bit like baby talk. So what? It beats humiliating silence, blocking or repeating s's, and most won't notice anyway, as slurring words is the new English, as my grandkids have proven. And the more that you learn to do it, the less you'll need to do it. Okay, now stop reading aloud and take a breather. Then start reading again. If I can take the time to write this pure labor of love for you, you can take the time to master it. Using similar words, crutch too. Using similar words. Let me copy this. The easiest and most common crutch. This is a method that many people who started discover on their own. It was the first crutch that I used. It's ever so obvious and natural. It simply can't beat stuttering by itself, but to a limited extent, using synonyms permits flawless fluency. It was my very first crutch, and it led me compile and publish in 2017 my own 50,000 entry word book, which is also on Amazon Books under my name. If you don't know an exact synonym, a similar word will do. If you can't recall a similar word either, use a short phrase that describes the feared word. Synonyms or similar words for book might include volume, tone, omnibus, manual, publication, primer, folio, paperback, hard copy, Kindle, novel, story, treatise, notebook, notepad, pad, workbook, ledger, title, reading material, pamphlet, chapbook, text, lexicon, information source, records, accounts, verse, etc. Many of these are very loose approximations, but they beat an embarrassing block. Again, the more time that you beat a bad incident, the less threatening, the less threatened bad incidents will occur. If no symptom or similar words come to mind, simply grab a phrase to insert. Most anything will do. Again, example again, if you want to say the word book to a sales clerk in the store, you might say, I'm looking for something to read. What fiction do you have by blank? I love to read. Can you help me blank? Who's your favorite author? I need something to read. Just be sure not to pre-plan what you'll say. Fluency results when ideas are released as the urge to speak comes to mind. The mind does all the word choosing for fluent speakers. Fluency is like eating on the run. Fluency is akin to knee jerk that occurs when the doctor taps your crossed knee. The less that you think about what you'll say, the more fluent you will be. Speed of release kills Satan stuttering. It is not necessary to talk fast. I wouldn't, as it leads to many non-stuttering mistakes. Speed in starting talking is good, but after that, a normal speed or even a bit slower in Short increments is best. Delaying speech is the primary cause of disfluency. Hesitating before speaking to think words is the fatal toxin for people who stutter. Stop doing that. By itself, your stuttering days are over. Okay, let me write that. And the less that you think about what you'll say, the more fluent you'll be. Write that one down as well. The less that you think about what you'll say, the more fluent you'll be. Hesitating force toxin. You're toxic now, shake it out now. It is not necessary to talk fast. I won't do that. Okay. Delaying speech is the okay, blah, blah, blah. Crutches are methods of working around the disfluency that is caused by the fatal word thinking hesitations. When you delay saying the phrase that you are using in lieu of a feared word, you give your trained, stutter planning mind a chance to inject fear of a different word. You must speak the split second that the thought occurs to you, then keep it short, using the full stops after each complete thought, and use crutches as you finish your thought. For example, see crutch 11, jammed words 4, linked words 10, extreme pronunciation 9, whispered words 7, and or modulated words 8, defy stutter planning and defeat Lucifer Lockjaw. You won't have to use any crutches to beat back stutters for long. It takes several months for many to stop this fluency, and another few months for fluency to flow without the need for crutches. Once you and your mind accept the fact that you can avoid any stutter, the stutter fear meter begins to crash, and you'll soon be home free. The objective is to avoid your next instance of stuttering, so give yourself a break. Refuse to publicly wrestle with your words by repeating a letter, or worse, blocking silently while squinting, bobbing your head, etc. Abandon that feared word and use another word. When you create an embarrassing stutter memory, it hangs with you a long time and perpetuates repeats. You can't afford to do it, period. A crutch is not planning speech, it is the opposite. It's a split second, unplanned juke where you fake out Satan by switching, jamming, talking around, etc. of feared words. The stutter fear part of your mind cannot impose new stutter fears as fast as you can change words or thoughts grab crutches. The growing army of people who stopped stuttering is now in Speech Anxiety Anonymous's Hall of Fame. Prove this every day. As you learn to use synonyms, similar words, or a few words that say the same thing, this crutch too becomes a somewhat perfect option. In steps 5 and 6, you will learn methods of reinforcing the good memories via autosuggestion and or self-hypnosis. Stutter memories and fear meter falling, falling, falling. Oh my god, I'm so tired. Let me pause it there. I am actually knackered. Let me just save this. Right, this is PDF page 157 and the book number is 144. I'm leaving this on 5.3. Skip or spell the word, which is crutch 3. Right, I don't know if I'm going to return to this, but oh my god, I'm absolutely knackered. Okay, let me pause it here.